Once this city thrummed with ambition. Skyscrapers clawed at the heavens like desperate fingers. Neon signs buzzed with promises of high-speed internet, and streaming services saturated every household. Life was a show, and we were its eager audience. But somewhere along the way we stopped watching life and instead began to exist within it. Or, more accurately, from inside the cold, glowing blue void of a screen. That's where channel heads came in. At first, they were just two ordinary guys, Eugene and Dex, classic gamer bros, the kind of guys who could crush a six-pack of energy drinks in one sitting and unironically yell, "Get wrecked, noob," into their mics. Eugene worked at a tech repair shop, reanimating smartphones with cracked screens and answering existential questions like, "Why won't my Bluetooth connect?" Dex, on the other hand, was unemployed but passionately dedicated to grinding for legendary loot in games that no one played anymore. They met in a multiplayer lobby, naturally. Eugene had sniped Dex in a multiplayer showdown match, and instead of flaming each other, they bonded over mutual disdain for microtransactions. Their friendship was sealed with a late-night pizza order and a marathon of retro games that shaped the 2020s on a streaming platform that rhymes with Schmetflix. But this isn't a story about friendship. Not really. This is a story about what happens when you give yourself entirely to a virtual world and what it takes from you in return. It started innocently enough. Eugene wanted better reflexes, faster thumbs. Dex wanted more immersive gameplay, so when their favorite game studio announced NeuroSync, a controller that physically connected your nervous system to the game, they didn't have to think twice. "Plug in," the ad said. "Unleash your potential." The boxes arrived with two sleek controller sets and wires that looked like expensive USB-C cables and an instruction manual so dense you'd think it was written in Elvish. But who reads manuals anyway? Eugene was the first to plug in. It wasn't as painful as he expected, though the wires did leave a faint burning sensation where they burrowed into his wrists. "No pain, no gain," he muttered, loading up the newest sci-fi shooter. Dex followed suit a day later, still nursing a hangover from an all-night gaming binge. "Let's see if this thing can cure regret," he joked. It couldn't. For a while, everything was awesome. Reflexes sharpened, their KD ratios skyrocketed. Eugene could 360 no-scope with his eyes closed, and Dex became a legend in PvP arenas, his virtual kills earning him real-life admiration, or as close as you get in an online forum. But the wires, they started to spread. At first it was subtle. Eugene noticed them creeping up his forearms, thin tendrils snaking like living veins beneath his skin. Dex's wire started poking through his hoodie sleeves, but he shrugged it off. "It's part of the aesthetic," he joked. "Cyberpunk is in." Then came the headaches, splitting migraines that felt like their skulls were being rewritten in binary code. Eugene went to the doctor, but all the tests came back clean. "Just unplug," the doctor said. Eugene couldn't, neither could Dex. The NeuroSync wasn't just connected to their hands anymore. It was connected to everything. The day the TVs appeared was the day they stopped being human. It happened during a particularly intense co-op session. Eugene had just rage quit after getting owned by a 12-year-old when he felt it. A pop, like a soda can being opened, but inside his head. His vision went black. When he woke up, Dex was screaming, Dude, you have a TV for a head." Eugene didn't believe him at first. He thought it was a joke. But the reflection in his computer monitor told a different story. His face, his whole head was gone, replaced by an old CRT television, the kind you'd find at a thrift store, sometimes with a VHS player built in. On the screen, a grainy version of his face stared back at him, mouth moving just slightly out of sync. "Is this a bug?" he asked, voice crackling like a bad radio signal. It wasn't. Dex's transformation followed soon after. His TV head was also old school, and while he quite admired the boxy retro look, he still couldn't help but complain about the resolution. "Why couldn't I get 4K? He grumbled, rubbing where his temple should be as if trying to adjust the static. And so Eugene and Dex became the first channel heads. At first, they thought they could fix it. They Googled TV head cure and scrolled through conspiracy forums. They even tried unplugging, but the wires had grown too deep, tangled into their very bones. The neurosync was no longer an accessory, it was an organ. And besides, they kind of liked their new abilities. Who needed a smartphone when you could just stream your thoughts directly onto your face? Who needed a mirror when you could change your channel to surveillance cam and see yourself in third person? But there was a cost. The city began to shift around them. It turned out Eugene and Dex weren't alone. Channel heads were multiplying everywhere. Gamers, streamers, even office workers who spent too long staring at spreadsheets began sprouting screens where their heads used to be. The wires snaked through the streets, connecting buildings, binding people. The skyline shimmered with static. The city didn't collapse. It adapted. Ads started appearing on people's screens. Corporations monetized their every thought, turning idle musings into clickable content. Privacy became a quaint relic like cassette tapes or democracy. At first, Eugene and Dex thrived in this new world. They became minor celebrities, constantly broadcasting highlight reels of their best kills, their funniest memes, and the occasional existential breakdown. But deep down, they knew they weren't in control anymore. They were channels, sure, but channels need an audience. And what about the audience? It didn't feel real. It didn't even feel human. Just a faceless mob, endlessly scrolling through their lives like they were at a never-ending digital buffet, devouring whatever content was served up next. Headshots, consumed, jokes, ignored, emotional meltdowns, on a loop for someone's twisted amusement. They weren't entertainers, they were merely content. It was fame, but the kind you get when your fans are algorithmic bots and the only applause you get is from a server crash. The more they gave, the emptier they felt, like performing stand-up for a crowd that only reacts with a thumbs down button. They were living in a perpetual broadcast, an endless loop of content like a cancelled show that no one bothered to mention. And the best part, no one cared. It was all about the next viral clip. Keep on killing, keep laughing, keep shoveling more temporary satisfaction into the void, only for it to be replaced by the next empty moment. And now the controllers that started it all are lying abandoned on the ground, their cords trailing into the dirt like lifeless tendrils. But Eugene and Dex, they don't need them anymore. Their lives are the game now, every moment a performance, every thought a piece of content, all of it recycled, remixed, and forgotten the moment it's consumed. They stand in the shadow of the city's glowing skyline, neon light flickering across their faces, their reflections scattered across 100 different screens. The world around them pulses with the hum of 1,000 simulations, a noise that once felt like home, but now only echoes in the emptiness between them. Dex turns to Eugene, his eyes hidden behind the glassy screen, and asks, "Do you ever wonder if we're still alive?" Eugene thinks about it for a long moment, the question lingering in the static. For the first time, the weight of it feels real, like something deep inside him is finally stirring. Then, almost without a word, they move in perfect sync. They reach up, hands trembling just slightly as they grasp the dials on each other's TV heads. For a breathless second, they hold the moment, as if the action itself might undo everything. And then, with a final twist, they cut the broadcast and themselves off forever. And that's the world of channel heads, a reflection of our own lives in a time when screens are extensions of our bodies and algorithms shape our souls. Remember, the line between player and played isn't as clear as we'd like to think. So the next time you pick up a controller, just ask yourself, who's really holding who?